Welcome back, friends, from Cape Breton. It's Saturday night, and in tonight's episode, we are going to talk about what things we can do today to help ourselves be the best version of us in 2023. So let's get into it. The news broadcasts scream out about all the extremes, the good. This celebrity did XYZ. This good person is a hero tonight for whatever. And so is people's sexiest person. And the bad, this child is missing. This plane crashed. This murder happened. And the ugly, gas prices are going up again. Housing is uncertain. Food is scarce. And what does that do to us, the average everyday Joe? It makes us feel angry or sad or inferior or the odd time happy. But as you can see from my examples, society, media, and even our own worlds have conditioned us to rely on external sources to get and rate our feelings, our measure of self. And to this, I say, no more. The cries are being echoed throughout the globe for years now, and that makes me feel happy. People are finally saying, I matter. I am enough. I'm not opening up this discussion, this conversation for all the isms out there. They are valid and they are definitely in the limelight. But what I'm saying tonight is let's talk about us, the individual, and what we can do to help ourselves shift this negative narrative. So friends, if you usually tune in on YouTube, you will see this broadcast there as well. But I'm just not videotaping myself tonight in the traditional sense. I am not feeling my best, and part of it is this conversation. It's really hit home to me in many different areas of my life. And I also got my flu shot and my other vaccine last week, and I'm still quite fatigued. So I'm just gonna put this on with a backdrop and hope you enjoy it in that way. So basically it's just audio this week. Hope you can be okay with that. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Barb, and I am here every week, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. And I enjoy talking about pretty much anything. The last few weeks has been more on an individual basis. Last week, I talked about being friends and what friendship means. But you can really see from my catalog of episodes from season 1 when I just started the podcast. I did a little bit more on true crime, paranormal stuff. And season 2, I moved into a different area. But I'll be going back and forth between all kinds of topics. So if you like this kind of thing, make sure you follow the podcast and make sure you like it and share it so that this podcast grows, because that really truly does help and I appreciate it. Pardon me. So when I opened up, I mentioned media and how that really influences how we feel about ourselves. That's not new. That's not, an astonishing fact. I think that's a well-known fact to many of us. And how does that play into our everyday lives? Well, of course it plays a big part in our everyday lives. You have an abundance of media sources at your fingertips every second of the day, especially if you have a smartphone, and who of us does not have a smartphone in our hands? So you're scrolling on Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, maybe a news feed of another source. Maybe you're scrolling on one of the news outlets, and you're seeing the detrimental news, the bad stuff, the ugly stuff, so instantly that it truly affects your mental state, how you feel physically, almost on a daily, if not hourly basis. And what really brought me to this topic, of course, is the tragic Idaho murders that happened last November. That was obviously horrendous, and we're seeing all the effects of that play out in the media. Now, one thing, I live under a rock, and I know I'm probably not alone in this, where not a lot of it has hit me as far as like the TikTok sleuths and all the social media stuff. But I have watched the Dateline documentary, the Dateline show on it, some podcasts I've listened to, I've seen some YouTube videos on it, and it still affects me, and I really want to do my own take on that. And part of this is that, where all the sleuths out there, all the individuals who are posting their own ideas or theories behind what had happened and putting it out there for the world, or blaming people, or putting that negative narrative out there. And that's fine for them. But what I want to do for myself, and I'm hoping that I can influence you all to do for yourselves, is to remove yourself from that. What do I mean by removing yourself? Well, let's get into it. So I mentioned at the very top of this podcast episode, what things can we do today to help ourselves be the best version of us in 2023? I think there's 5 kind of areas that we can work on, and I know I'm going to work on for myself. So let's go through those. Number 1 is to declutter. And this just touches on what I was just saying about all the sleuths out there and all the information coming at you specifically about that one thing. But that's just one thing. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of different topics out there. That information constantly hits you. So decluttering not only your physical environment in your home, but also your mental environment and your digital environment. So if that means just putting your phone away, closing the computer, walking away from that kind of thing for a few hours a day, or only allowing yourself to scroll for an hour at a time, and then walking away from it to kind of declutter your mind, your mental state, and working on decluttering your physical space. That's been working for me. Now, again, I am not one to sit and scroll for hours on end and really absorb that kind of material. If I do absorb or scroll for hours, it's usually on stupid stuff like gardening videos, how to use feng shui in your home, and, decluttering motivation. But that's just me. I still have to step away from that kind of thing too, because when I watch too many, let's say, decluttering videos, and I see perfectly aligned pantries and homes that are just so pristine, I get imposter syndrome, and I get demotivated from that. So I have to declutter my digital, put it away, and just step into my own space and say, what can I do? What do I have control of to really make my space work for me? The second thing I want to talk about, and I'll get back to the decluttering, I'll get back to each one of these points as well, but the second one is journaling. Now, I mentioned journaling in a few of my videos on YouTube. I've mentioned journaling probably through here a few times. It's something I do not do on a regular basis. However, I do enjoy doing it. So when I talk about journaling, that could be different for each one of us. That could be a literal physical journal where you take pen to paper and you write out your to-do lists, or you write out your feelings, or whatever it is. You sketch something, whatever that looks like for you. For me, I have a physical paper planner that I like to plan my year out, kind of plan my months, my days, my weeks, whatever. And I like to look at that and say, okay, so in May, I like to garden. So in May, my last frost date is XYZ. Now I'm going to count back and kind of plan when I need to start my seeds. That is a form of journaling, and it is also a form of decluttering my physical and mental, so I know exactly what I have physically. I know where I want to go mentally, and it kind of puts things in a line, so I'm not feeling so overwhelmed by everything, all the information out there, and I'm not feeling overwhelmed by my physical space as well and what I have to do, or what I feel I have to do. Number 3 is doing something fun every week or every month, something that you really love to do or always wanted to do. So that could be something as simple as going for a walk in your neighborhood, or it could be something as extreme as taking a trip somewhere. These things are definitely individual and manageable based on your ability and your finances and what you can do for yourself in that situation. So for me, that would look like doing something fun might be taking my dogs for a walk, or doing something fun. I received a gift certificate to a local place in my area for Christmas. I'd never been there. It's like a pottery kind of decorative thing where crafting, I don't even know my words today, like a crafting area where you go and you have your coffee and you do a little craft, and that's very social. I've never done that before. I don't think I'd be great at it, but it sounds fun. So I think I might do that. That might be next month, the thing I do. But that's just the idea, is to pick something that really truly gives you joy. And for that instance, for that example I just gave, what gives me joy out of that is being creative and going with a friend and having friend time. Number 4 is to do mirror work. And if you've never done mirror work, that can seem very overwhelming, seem odd. It can seem like you're just crazy and talking to yourself. It can seem vulnerable. All of those things are valid. All of those things are true. But doing mirror work allows you to really look at yourself and tell yourself, you got this. You're beautiful. You're smart. And whatever you want to add into that, whatever narrative you want to tell yourself. But doing that work on a daily, like you're brushing your teeth and you're really looking at yourself and you're thinking or saying out loud, not spitting your toothpaste out, but you get my drift. Maybe you're just brushing your hair and you're talking to yourself. Those things you say to yourself, those things you tell yourself, start to become true for yourself. You start to believe them. Have you ever noticed that when somebody tells you something positive, you don't believe them, but when they tell you something negative, you readily accept it? This is what I'm talking about. You need removing that negative narrative in your life and starting to tell yourself the positive things that everybody else tells you. Wow, you look really great today. Oh, I really love your smile. Or you got beautiful eyes. Those things we have a hard time believing. Why? They're true, but we don't believe them. That's because society has told us only those that exceed the natural ability to be beautiful is the standard. That's not true. The truth is, everyone has a beautiful aspect to them. Everyone does. And if you don't believe that, you're readily available to believe the negative. And you tell yourself those negative things. If you don't like the mirror work aspect of things, one thing I've done, because I'm not great at standing in front of a mirror and talking to myself either, is I video myself. Now, I've stepped it up and I've gotten brave and put those videos on the internet for everybody to see. And that is a brave thing to do, because to yourself and edit yourself, it's cringeworthy sometimes. You don't like looking at yourself or listening to yourself. When I edit my podcasts, oh my goodness, it takes me a while to get through it, because who likes to listen to themselves? However, what showing myself and actually watching it and going back and looking at it and listening to myself has done is it's actually giving me the confidence to continue to do that and to have a voice and to speak my truth. It's still a practice I make. It's still something I do on a daily basis. Just even if it's taking a snapshot on Snapchat and using a filter, who cares? But you're still doing something not in a narcissistic way, but in a healthy, building yourself up way. Number 5 is don't listen to the Karens, the Chads, the whatevers out there, those negative Nancys that are constantly in your ear yelling for a manager, whatever. Don't listen to those people. Whatever they have shoved up there, you know what? They really need to get a life. They are projecting out onto the world whatever negative crap that they got going on, and we need to not only stop videotaping them. I mean, it is entertaining. Come on. Who am I kidding? It's entertaining as hell. That's when I grab my popcorn and I'm just sitting back watching going, oh my goodness. This person is out of their frickin' mind. However, I don't listen to them. Let's talk to me. Now, God love you. I have a cousin Karen, and she's not a Karen. This use of the word Karen to describe a negative person or an irate person or somebody who's totally entitled and thinks that their crap don't stink, has given the true Karens a really bad rap. Anyway, I digress. Not listening to them. So when somebody has said something negative to me, like the worst negative thing I've ever been told was that I was worthless. Well, that has to be one of the worst things a person can hear in their lives. So what did I do? It was a customer, by the way, and it was a work situation. Won't get into the details here. But what I did was use my voice, and at this time, it was more than 20 years ago, and I was not as confident as I am today. But I still was able to use my voice because I always believed that that is not appropriate and that is not true. And I said to this individual, if you continue to speak to me in this way, I will disconnect. I will not be speaking to you anymore. And it was over the phone, hence the disconnect. The person continued to speak to me in that manner, so I just let them go. I mean, why bother sitting there and absorbing that kind of negative shit, excuse my language, in your life when you don't have to? No job is worth that, by the way. None. Okay, so we've talked about kind of some ideas on how to make this year like the best version of yourself. Now I want to go over some ideas I have for moving your brainwave from scarcity, I don't have this, I can't do that, blah, 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 to abundance. Wow, I have so much to be thankful for in my life. So this kind of goes on the fight or flight kind of idea. So let's go back to the very first part of this podcast when I was saying the news broadcasts, broadcast the good, the bad, the ugly. And one of the examples I gave was plane crashes. So when news broadcasts, this plane crashed in this country and these many people died, it puts into our brains the negative. Planes crash. Let's try to rewrite that narrative, because in reality, more car crashes than planes crash. So it's just the way it's told to us in such a negative light. We don't hear about all the thousands upon thousands of planes that land very well and don't crash, do we? No, we only hear about very few that crash, which is so unfortunate. I'm not playing that down at all or making light of it. What I'm saying is that That's how our brains are wired. We're wired to hear and focus on the negative side of things. So in 2023, let's kind of try to flip that script and tell ourselves, well, there's so much that goes right. The scarcity versus abundance. Okay, so in your home, I want you to look at the structure itself and the belongings you have, the contents of your home, and then the space you have in your home. So when you look at your home, your space, your belongings, and the structure, what you're looking at is not from a place of scarcity. Oh, my house is too small. I don't have enough things, and I have no space for anything in my life. What I want you to look at is, wow, I have such a beautiful home. I have a roof over my head. I have walls holding up that roof. I have a nice floor that I can maintain and keep clean. The belongings, I have a bed, a sofa, a kitchen table. I may not have all the knickknacks or every wall full of pictures, but that's okay. I have what truly means the most to me and what I need to survive or be happy and comfortable. Excuse me. Had to have a drink of coffee. My throat was getting a little dry. So that's what I'm talking about when you look at your space, your belongings, and your structure. For me, I have a small home, very proudly owned. Oh dear. My space had felt pretty cluttered, to be honest. Lots of things in bins when I moved that never came out of those bins. So that's when I moved into the declutter phase of my life. Declutter those physical things so that everything in my home, in my space, all my belongings are things I truly enjoy and things that give me joy. Now, societal influence and pressure kind of give us the idea or put into our brain that your home has to be perfect to be good. That's not true. Let's scrap that right now. That's not true. The same goes for your financial situation. Each one of us have a different financial situation. We have different financial obligations, debts, savings goals. Maybe we have a different family structure. Maybe you have children or grandchildren. Maybe you have, I don't know, millions of dollars in the bank. Whatever your case is, oh my, whether you have nothing as far as $0 or you have an abundance of money, that's irrelevant in this case. You can be financially secure and feel abundant in your finances without having to win the lottery. If you go, and I'll link the channel in the show notes, if you go to my financial budgeting channel on YouTube, you will see I have low income and I budget using that low income. That might be only I have an extra $100 a week or every 2 weeks to use to put into a budget for myself, but that's okay. The turtle wins the race. You get my point? Your income, how you work with budgets, your savings goals, all of those things, even if they're small, even if it's just putting your loose change in a jar and that's all you can do, that's okay. If you remove that scarcity mindset and say, oh, all I have is a few dollars change a month, I have nothing, blah, 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 poor me, to, wow, I was able to save a few dollars this month. I am so blessed, so grateful for these few dollars that I didn't have last month that I now have. See how that, just those shift of how I use my words changed my mindset from being scarce to abundant, with being grateful as well. Lifestyle. This also plays on to your home and your financials, of course. Your lifestyle, work-life balance, your personal life, and your family and friends, how they mix in. If you think about your lifestyle, your work, whether you have a job or not, whatever work you're doing, if you're a stay-at-home mom, that's still a job, full-time, 24/7. Your personal life, whether you are dating or single, and your family and friends. So with all those things, if you look at all those things and say, well, I have no job, I suck. I'm not dating anybody, or a loveless marriage, I suck. And I have very few friends. Go back and listen to my friends episode. I suck. That's not true. You know it's not true, but you're telling yourself it is. Flip that around for yourself. Go ahead, journal it out. So what, you don't have a job? What are you doing? Maybe you're a creative person. Maybe you're doing something on the side. You need to look at that and give yourself credit for that. Personal life. So what if you're not dating? I'm not dating. I'm single. Who cares? The world is made up of many people in many different forms, in many different situations. Just because you're single has no bearing on your happiness. I mean, if it does, that's another issue altogether, and we need to go to a different podcast that deals with mental stability. I am quite happy and content being an individual person. Family and friends. I have very few true friends where they're like my sisters. But I have acquaintances. That's true. I have family. That's true. So I'm not lacking in my friend department. Do I want to make more friends? Sure. Do I need to? No. But that's where I changed the negative narrative to a positive narrative on myself, is that sure, I don't have thousands of friends following me on Facebook and wanting to know my every move. Who the frick cares? If I only have one person who hears me or wants to see me, that's all I care about. I only care about what's true in my life, what's valid in my life, and what makes me happy in my life. And again, let me reiterate, not from a narcissistic point of view. That's a different thing. I see myself in a light of abundance versus a brain full of scarcity. Success, self-esteem, social anxiety and influence, the imposter syndrome, all of these things are under the umbrella of societal influence and pressure. Can I live a fulfilled life without a massive house, bank account, and perfect body? Abso-frickin-lutely you can. You can absolutely live your life full of grace and full of happiness without having what Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, Facebook, even YouTube tell you is the perfect life. There's always something going on in somebody else's life, so don't think the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. That's it for me this week, friends. I hope you take care and tune in next week. I don't know what I'll talk about, but we'll talk about something for a good half hour. Until then, friends, take care.